Hey guys, I hope you're having a great weekend. We're just laying low here doing our COVID thing, and I'm spending my time back testing. Go figure. I was thinking about it. Wouldn't it be great if back testing was an aerobic exercise, or better yet, an Olympic sport? We would all be up on that pedestal winning medals, wouldn't we? Anyway, it got me thinking that there's a lot to this back testing thing that I barely scratched the surface of, so I decided to make another video. So in this video, I want to review some additional backtest tools that I've been using. I have done a couple of videos in the past, if you recall. I did my backtesting part 1 deeper dive, and that's really focused on kind of that high level eyeball look at, just kind of eyeball it to see without really counting a lot of pips, just how many wins as opposed to losses a certain indicator might bring. And then in my backtesting part 2 deeper dive, I actually went into some more of the detail about how you get some of the metrics around your backtesting. And I talked about a tool that I use, which is it was the soft FX manual backtesting simulator, which worked really well at the time. But I'll tell you, I found an even better one out there, and I'm going to share that with you. And if you hang with me, I'll give you all the information about where you can find it, because I got to tell you, it kind of knocks the soft FX out of the water in terms of being much more easy to use and intuitive. So anyways, let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this video. So this video will be a little bit different because I'm going to be focusing more on that step-by-step process. How do you get from A to Z? Where do you start? So I've actually put together a backtest strategy flowchart. I mean, you first see this thing, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But if you just go one block at a time, it's really easy to follow. And it'll help keep you focused because, I don't know, if you're anything like me, I get distracted at the drop of a hat these days. And it's kind of like I need something that just keeps me focused and moving from one point to the other without darting off in a million different directions. And boy, when you start backtesting all these indicators and you start changing settings and you start putting different things together, it can take you in a million different directions. So I put together, and this is just for me. This is how I did it. And I'm going to make it available in my toolkit. If it helps you, great. If you backtest differently, then feel free, continue with what works for you. But I just thought if it was something I used, it was something helpful, maybe it would be helpful for other people as well. So once you start doing this backtesting, you also need to be very detailed in how you document all that information. So I've put together my own type of spreadsheet to keep all of these results together. Now, let me tell you, there are a lot of good spreadsheets out there. You can find them in the Discord. You can find them on Facebook groups. So don't think this is the end all and the be all, because it's not. But it's the one that I put together for the way I do the back testing, and it works really well for me. So I'm also sharing that as well. And finally, you have to have your overall algo test plan. And what I mean by that is you have all this data and you're like evaluating the data and you're making decisions. Well, you've got to have this final plan that you continue to build upon. For instance, you start with a C1 and you narrow that down, you get that down based on your results, and then you put it in your plan. And then the next thing you do is you start building additional indicators on top of that to see what's going to work best. So I just have a little document to keep that straight. And I'm also going to tell you about, like I said earlier, the new manual backtest simulator that I found. And this is really pretty cool. I mean, I happen to like the manual backtest method better than the total EA automatic ones because it simulates more of what you're really going to do, and it also gives you a lot more practice in identifying those trades and identifying your exits, as you would in real trading. So I like that type of backtester. But this one that I'm going to tell you about, it's super easy. You don't even have to place trades like you did with the soft 4FX. You literally indicate what candle you're going in on, what candle you're going out on, and it'll automatically calculate your risk, calculate your stop loss, calculate your take profit, everything. So super exciting, super simple. So let's dig right in. Okay, so the first thing is this Algo backtest strategy. This is the flowchart I was telling you about. And again, don't be intimidated. I know it's kind of crazy looking, but the idea is just to go one step at a time and to stay very focused. And as you can see, you start with your research, and then from there, you're going to go through this process to find your C1. Okay, and what you're aiming for is a win rate above 60%. And then once you have your C1 identified, next thing you'll do, well, not you do necessarily, but what I did, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to tell you how to backtest. I want to just share with you what I did. So the next thing I did then was I added the baseline. And what we're looking for is we're looking for an increase in our results by adding that baseline. And once we get those two together, then I started tracking all of the other metrics. And that's really easy with this backtest simulator. So I looked at profit factor, I looked at ROI, I looked at maximum drawdown, number of trades, win rate. All of these things are just automatically spit out for you with this tool. And then finally, you kind of repeat that process then with all of your other indicators. Just keep adding to your algorithm. So you look for a C2, an exit, and a volume, and of course record your results. And then once you have that full algo, you start forward testing on a demo account, of course. You always want to forward test on a demo account. What I like to suggest is you set goals for your complete algorithm. In other words, don't just look at the win rate, because the win rate is going to fluctuate once you really start looking at taking two simultaneous trades. So your goals should be really focused on things like your profit factor. And one of the things I wanted to see was a profit factor of 1.3 or greater and an ROI. And the reason I have ROI greater than 30% is because that's the minimum that they require for the No Nonsense Forex Discord Algo group. I have to say that's not easy. I'm still working at that myself. But it's a goal, like anything else. And finally, drawdown. You don't want to see your drawdown go too far. So that's just a quick walk through the backtest strategy. The next thing is, where are you going to put your results from all of these things? So this is the spreadsheet I was telling you about. And, here's kind of an example of how I use it. I put the date of my backtest, and I give that particular test a name. Now, this really doesn't matter. It's whatever naming convention is going to work for you. But you have to remember that once you get 50, 60, 100 line items of different combinations of things and settings, you're going to want to have a name that makes sense to you so that you can find these results. I just happen to put, like, if this first go around would be my C1 alone, I'll say C1 alone 1, C1 alone 2, C1 alone 3, and then I usually put the indicator name and the pair that I tested upon. And typically I start with Euro USD, but you don't have to. And then test for a minimum of 3 years. And then in these columns, for whatever it is you're testing, put the indicator name and the settings. So if you're only doing C1 alone, you're only going to have one there. And then this is where you're going to record your results. But as you start to build your algorithm, you're just going to start combining this with a baseline, and then eventually you'll have all of these filled up with different combinations. So there, in a nutshell, is the spreadsheet that I've been using, and this is my final test plan. And what is really important is it doesn't go on this plan until you have tested it out with at least the 5 benchmark pairs that VP talks about. And as I said, it's just a build process. First, you start with your C1. Okay, whatever C1 it is that you have identified, you're going to record your win rate, if you have your profit factor, your ROI, your drawdown, your net profit loss. This delta here is for when you start combining things. And then when you start putting them together, you've got the results from your C1 plus your baseline. And the important thing is you're going to want to see a delta here in terms of your profit loss. Or if you want to track ROI, whatever it is that you're going to have be the comparison, this is where you're going to put your delta. Or your change. Did it increase by so much percent or decrease by so much percent? And when you're done, you're going to have your full algorithm here. Okay, so hang with me here as I kind of walk you through step by step in a little bit more detail. Again, it seems a little overwhelming, but if you just take it one step at a time, it's not too bad. So if we go back to the backtesting strategy, this flowchart, this gives you the process. And the first thing after you research your indicators is you're going to be picking some of those indicators to test for your C1. So once you have those figured out, then your next step is to actually start testing them. Now, at this point, you're only going to be testing the indicator by itself. You're not going to be putting it with any other filters or volume or exit or anything like that. It's just the C1 alone. But here you're going to have a lot of possibilities. So test a lot of different indicators. Test a lot of different settings. Okay, so then at this stage is where you go to your backtest system. So you can use whatever backtest system works for you, as I'm going to show you in the next video, the next little video clip. I did find a cool one, though, that I promised to share with you, and it's called this one. It's called the Ultimate No-Nonsense Forex Backtester, and it is found in the MetaTrader 4 market. So I want to pop in here real quick and show you this new backtesting simulator tool that I found, and I do think it's pretty cool. Now keep in mind that when you do your backtest, you can use whatever method works for you. Some people use the strategy tester within MetaTrader 4. I told you that I used to use the soft 4FX program, which I think worked really well until I found this one. And this one is called the Ultimate No-Nonsense Backtester. And it's found right in the market, in the MetaTrader platform market. Now, it isn't free for the full version. However, they have a very, very robust demo. As a matter of fact, I'm using the demo right here version, and it runs with full functionality on Euro USD, and I believe it's one of the other 5 benchmark pairs. So anyway, try it out, see if you like it. I think that you'll find that it's really quick and easy. So basically you go along, and when you have a change in signal, you'll indicate and it'll track it for you. You can see in this last one, there was a buy here. The first trade hit profit, and then the second trade broke even. So let me show you how this works. You don't have to enter any numbers. It does all the calculations for you. So here we have a change in our super trend. So that is a signal. So what you're going to do is you're going to hover over the candle that you would have gone into the trade and click, and it'll capture it there. And then you come along and you just look for the candle, this one right here. So this is the candle where we would have exited because we had a change in signal. So I hover over that candle, I click again, and now you can see I have the entry candle marked and I have the exit candle marked. And then now all I have to do is tell the system whether that was a buy or a sell. So in this case, it was a sell. So I come over here and I hit sell. So now it's already taken it. The first one hit take profit, and it went on down from there, and you just continue. So now in this case, this candle would have been entry for a buy, and we would have gotten out here. Buy. Simple as that. And we enter again for a sell, and we get out here, and that was a sell. And meanwhile, it is putting in those two different orders, and it is keeping track of how many broke even and how many hit profit. So you just go along like this. I have just found this to be very quick and easy. This is a buy. We go along, go along, go along, go along, go along. We look for our exit candle. I'll do another video where I go into a lot more detail on this. I just want to show you here how quick and easy, though, it was to do this. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is, I don't know if you can see it up here, but you've got your running totals here, plus you can print your results at the end. But if you notice here, we've got a current P&L of 181.17. We have, let's see, our gross profit. We've got a profit factor so far of 131. We have a drawdown of negative 5.3. We've got an ROI of 1.81. And currently, we've had 9 trades with, let's see, 12 trades with 9 of them being winners, which gives us a 75% win rate so far. So this is where you can get this information to put into your spreadsheet. And again, you don't have to use this software to do your back testing. I just thought I'd share it with you because I thought it was pretty cool. And I will put the link again in the description, but you can also find it in the MetaTrader marketplace. So you just continue on, finish out your back test, and then get these results right here or print your results. And this will then put this into an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so after you run your test on your back test, the next thing you want to do is to be sure to keep those detailed results. And those detailed results are going to be found on your spreadsheet. And I have an example spreadsheet set up here. This is the spreadsheet that I use. And obviously you want to put the date that you did your testing. And again, you're going to create some type of naming convention that makes sense to you. And your first go around, you want to use the same pair with the same time frame so that you can compare apples to apples. So I only have a couple of examples here, but here for the C1, I tested Super Trend with these settings, Ash with these settings, Super Trend with these settings, and Ash. And you might say, but those are the same settings. Well, there's other things at play as well. one of the things that I included was whether or not I used the one ATR rule or not. So in some instances, I didn't limit myself to the one ATR. In other instances, I did. So that's why we have some difference. Real important thing is this description and rules section right here. Be as explicit as you can about what it is that you were testing, what were some of the different rules that you followed, the criteria, because believe me, they all start to blend together after a while. And just a little side note, for these examples, these are just example numbers. So don't go by these numbers and think that they're valid by any means. I'm just trying to show you how to use the spreadsheet. So then you're looking at your win rate column, okay? And in this case, we only had one combination that was greater than the 60% threshold that we had. So if we go back to here, we see after we do all of our testing and we put them on our spreadsheet, are there any with the results of a win rate greater than 60%? If yes, we're ready to move on to the next step. If no, we got to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. But in this case, we did. We had this one right here, Super Trend, had a win rate of just over 60%. So we're going to take that combination and we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step then is we're going to test that combination on the 5 benchmark pairs. And the reason we're doing that is we don't want to get too far into this algorithm without making sure that it's solid and it holds up at every step of the process. You don't want to bake the whole cake before you take a taste to find out that it's not good. So now we're going to take that winning combination and we're going to put it on the 5 pairs. Let's go back to our spreadsheet. So here's the example I have. Again, this is the one that we copied from the previous spreadsheet, and I would suggest doing separate spreadsheets for these different phases, only for your own sanity to help keep everything straight. So now we're going to retest this same combination on the other 4 pairs of the benchmark 5. Now it's real important to remember that everything about this initial test needs to be duplicated exactly except for the pairs that you're testing on. So we're going to use the same indicator, we're going to use the same settings, and we're going to use the same date range so we can again compare apples to apples. So once you get that information, and at this point, I start tracking all of the different metrics. Okay, not only the win rate, but the profit factor, the ROI, the maximum drawdown, the net profit or loss, and still the criteria of which it was tested. Okay, and then I just always have the number of trades over here because that will come in handy later when you're ready to submit your algorithm to the No Nonsense Forex Discord private group. Okay, so as you can see, let me move back over just a little bit. We tested this indicator on all of these benchmarks. So now what we're going to be tracking is this average. We're going to be tracking the average results from all of those 5 pairs. Okay, so we can see here the win rate was 61.62, profit factor 1.2, ROI, maximum drawdown, etc. Okay, so at that point then, we are looking, did that result on all of the 5 pairs still give us greater than 60%? and that was true because it was 61 point something. So if you test it on all 5 pairs and it still gives you 60%, then move on over to the next stage. If not, guess what? You got to go all the way back and find yourself one that will. Because if you don't get this one right, they're not all going to fall into place. So once we have that result on the 5 pairs is greater than 60, then we can add this C1 results to our overall backtest plan, which is this one right here. So we're going to put that in there, okay? So we're adding our super trend and our settings, and we're putting in all of that information there. Now that we have our C1, we are ready to start building out our algorithm and building and layering on additional filters and indicators. Again, you can take whichever one you would like to test next. In my experience, I like adding the baseline next, only because it really helps to filter out a lot of trades right away. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this very similar to what we did up here, only this time we're going to start with our C1, and now we're going to add different baselines and different settings. So it'll look something like this. Okay, so we're going to have our C1 plus baseline now. So we have our C1, which is our super trend with those settings that worked from before. And now in this column, we're going to put the different baselines that we try. Now remember, there's a ton of different things to try. You know, you can do simple moving average, you can do exponential moving average, you can do all different degrees, you can do 20, 50, 100 for your settings. So this is just a small sample, but remember, this list could go on and on, like 50, 60, 100 different listings. And if you have them all together, and they're all based on the same pair and the same time frame, then you can very quickly sort up here and find the ones that have the best results for you. But for now, we're just going to look at 4 examples. And again, these are just for display. They're example numbers only. So you put your different ones in, and you are looking now for a win rate that outperforms your C1. So if you remember back here, okay, our win rate for our C1 alone was 61.62. Well, this one performed at 68.75. So this is the one, this is the combination we're going to use. So again, just like with our C1, once we find that one that has better results, we're going to test them on the 5 benchmark pairs. Again, and this is just the 2 together, your C1 and the baseline you just identified. And we're going to see, are those results better than C1? And again, if yes, then you're going to add that to your plan. And if it's no, you're going to start over again. So we go to our plan and we see that this combination had a win rate a little higher. It had a little bit higher profit factor. It had a little bit higher ROI. Had a little bit less drawdown, which is good. And the net profit or loss was higher. So in this column, I chose to track the difference in profit loss. So this resulted in an increase of 36%. So you just rinse and repeat. It's simple. Once you get this down, then again, you build on what you've already had. Now this time we would add a C2. Okay, we put those in, and then you go through this process again. Okay, you're going to find one that gives you better results. You're going to test it on the benchmark 5. You're going to confirm that it's still giving you better results, and then you're going to add it. And you do that for all of your different indicators to fill. And then finally, when you have them all done, you are ready to start forward testing on a demo account. I know, pretty complicated. So I hope this was helpful to you. Again, you know, there's a lot of different ways to approach this. This is just how I did it. But by including a step-by-step process, which is a flow chart to follow, a way to make sure you get all your results documented in very detail, very much in the detail, and then having that build overall document. I hope these are tools that are helpful for you, and I'm going to be adding them to the toolkit. So if you already downloaded the toolkit, go back and get it again. And finally, you know, go check out that new manual backtest simulator called the Ultimate No-Nonsense Forex Backtester. I think it's pretty cool. So until then, happy trading. And I will see if I can get another video, a little bit more detail about this simulator, just because I think that I went through it very quickly and people might be interested in everything that it can do. So until then, happy trading.